Years ago, the sitcom Good Times made an everlasting mark on pop culture. Would you please welcome the Evans siblings?
If you're naturally curious about how a movie or TV show was made and the challenges it faced mid-production, then you'll agree that Good Times deserves a spot on this list. Since the series first aired, it has been celebrated for its impressive storytelling and positive reception, but behind the scenes, it had some of television's strangest, unexpected stories. Join us today as we dive into 20 weird facts you probably didn't know about Good Times, 1974. Body number 20. Michael Evans played a significant role in Good Times. The famous series All in the Family at the time starred Michael Evans, who played Lionel Jefferson. Michael Evans played a part in the birth of Good Times. Here is how. When Evans heard from a source that CBS suddenly showed interest in producing a series centered on a black family, the first of its kind, he quickly reached out to Norman Lear to know if he could try pitching a script through him. After getting a positive response from Norman Lear, Evans and his friend Eric Monty began writing the script. The script was centered on a black family, John and his wife Maddie, and their 3 children, JJ, Thelma, and Michael. Although Norman Lear liked the script, he felt it would be better if Maddie were a single mom. As expected, the 2 writers disagreed, placing the project on hold until the producers finally agreed. You may be wondering why Evans Michael, originally meant to be an actor, suddenly took an interest in writing scripts for a TV show. After he got his big break in his acting career when All in the Family producer and director John Falsey hired him to play Lionel Jefferson, the son of the bunker's new black neighbors, his time on the show probably redirected his path. He wasn't even the first choice for the role, but John Rich thought he appeared less threatening. The show had a spin-off, The Jeffersons. After its first season, Evans Michael decided to leave to pursue another path. According to Jimmy Walker, Evans Michael had threatened to leave if he was not given more screen time, and Norman Lear, who was unmoved by his threats, removed him from his contract. Although he later returned for seasons 6, 7, and 8, he already knew what he wanted to do. Evans Michael wrote the Good Times series script from 1974 to 1979. Number 19. Good Times was not only a family series, but a movement. According to critics, the family TV show Good Times is more than a show. The series sheds light on the state of black Americans in the 70s, being the first of its kind. The series looked at themes such as gang warfare, racism, widowhood, poverty, education, child abuse, unemployment, evictions, financial struggles, bigamy, paraplegia, dating, stealing, suicide, mugging, engagements, affairs, and rent parties. As of then, these were challenging and complex issues that frequented the black communities daily. This subject matter brought viewers a little closer to the lives of black people and their daily struggles. Focus was laid on the characters' struggle for survival and how they strive to overcome poverty, living in high-rise public housing in Chicago. The family's patriarch, James Evans, had to take on at least 2 jobs, as a dishwasher or construction worker, to make ends meet. Despite his poverty, he is proud just like a typical African man, and as expected, his wife was displeased with his pride. Viewers, especially black Americans, never missed the series every week. They were eager to see the struggles and joys of an African-American family living in the Chicago projects. They could relate to the show as they saw their own family dynamics on screen for the first time in television history, and the series became an instant classic in households across the country. Actress Esther Rolla also led a movement by advocating for African-American representation in Hollywood. Sadly, she passed away in 1998 as a respected actress. Number 18. Good Times was a spin-off of Maude. At first, Maude was a spin-off of the All in the Family spin-off. Then, Good Times emerged as a spin-off of Maude. In 1972, Maude became a ratings hit. Its good rating led to Nelson Lear producing another spin-off. He decided to make Esther Roll, the housekeeper of Maude, a main character in her own series, and Evans Michael's script made his decision possible. Although he still very much wanted there to be no father figure in the series, Esther Roll had her way. I couldn't compound the lie that black fathers don't care about their children. Esther Roll later explained why she was adamant about having a male figure by her side. Nelson Lear probably had the wrong idea about the black family's dynamic. He later agreed and chose John Amos to be the patriarch. Initially, he occasionally appeared in Maude as Henry, Florida's husband. He only continued his role in Good Times. If Nelson Lear hadn't agreed to star in a male lead role, the show probably wouldn't have gotten its positive reception among blacks. A few of them would have felt offended by its stereotypes, especially when they knew a white man produced it. Number 17. The producers of Good Times really believed in Ralph Carter. After Esther Roll and John Amos were hired to play lead roles, the actor who played their youngest son was hired next. The producers thought Ralph Carter was the right child actor for the job, and he was just 12 years old when he was brought on board. He was cast as Michael, the youngest son of Florida and Henry. In the show, Michael was named Militant Midget by James because of his outspoken views on politics and civil rights. The show's producers initially thought and expected Ralph Carter to be the star character of Good Times, not only because of his looks but also because Carter was outspoken with intelligent viewpoints for his age. However, Ralph Carter was already a star before he joined the cast of Good Times. He appeared on Broadway in the musical Raisin. It was his outstanding performance that caught the attention of Nelson Lear, but that didn't stop the producers from auditioning other young actors. Haywood Nelson was first chosen to play the role of Michael, but Ralph Carter's charm was just too strong for the producers. According to them, Ralph Carter was better positioned to be cast as Michael because he had more experience in front of a live audience. Another surprising fact is that Nelson Lear had so much faith in Carter that he bought out the remainder of Ralph Carter's contract to enable him to appear on the series. Although the producers of Raisin were initially reluctant to accept Tandem Productions' buyout offer, they finally did. Because of a contractual obligation, early episodes of Good Times contain a notice in the credits. Ralph Carter appears courtesy of the Broadway musical Raisin. Number 16. The actor who portrayed 17-year-old JJ was 26. When it was time for the show producers to hire the first child and older son of Henry Evans and Florida Evans, Jimmy Walker was hired. The producer's choice this time was strange since the character JJ was meant to be a 17-year-old teenager. Jimmy Walker wasn't 17 when he was brought on board, he was 26. But this wouldn't be difficult to believe, as he looked like a young teen then. Jimmy Walker was later nominated for a Golden Globe Award in 1975 and 1976 for his role as JJ. He was the character star the producers were looking for. Like Ralph Carter, the actor was made before being brought on set. Jimmy Walker started his career in the entertainment industry as a stand-up comedian who began performing in 1969. His appearance on Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In and Jack Parr Show brought him to Nelson Lear's attention. Being a stand-up comic who had been headlining comedy clubs across the country for several years, he was definitely no stranger to an extent. After he got a job at CBS as the warm-up act for the James Coco sitcom Colucci's Department, Nelson Lear soon spotted him and gave him the role of JJ. As of then, Jimmy Walker had zero acting and television experience. He was only funny and had an expression called the fluid face. For Jimmy Walker, comedy was easy and was probably the thing he knew how to do best. Soon enough, audiences saw it too. Number 15. JJ's popular expression, "Die no might," became a popular catchphrase. One thing that made Jimmy Walker's performance in the show elicit laughter from the audience was his catchphrase, "Die no might." JJ's frequent use of the expression "die no might" was first delivered by Jimmy Walker at the end of Season 1, Episode 2. The episode was titled Black Jesus. His expression became a popular catchphrase. It sparked uncontrollable laughter from its audience, so it had to be included in TV Land's The 100 Greatest TV Quotes and Catchphrases special. Jimmy Walker gave credit to John Rich for bringing the expression to life. According to him, John Rich was adamant that JJ said it on every aired episode. Although Jimmy Walker and Norman Lear were initially skeptical, Die No Might surprisingly became the fans' favorite, and they soon fell in love with JJ's character. This outcome was meant to be a good thing worth celebrating, but it slowly led to the series' unexpected end. The writers soon left the main motive behind Good Times and began focusing on the comedy antics of J.J. Jimmy Walker's catchphrase, "Dynamite," was later used in his mid-1970s TV commercials for Panasonic cassette and 8 tape players. In 2021 to 2023 public announcements for Medicare, he also used his catchphrase. Jimmy Walker eventually released one stand-up comedy album during the height of his Good Times popularity, titled Dynamite on Buddha Records 5635. Number 14. Off camera, the popular Jimmy Walker wasn't popular with his castmates. The fact that audiences fell in love with Jimmy Walker's humor didn't mean all loved him. In fact, he wasn't in the good books of some cast members. Whether it was jealousy, purely strife, or even despair, one couldn't tell. But their cold attitudes towards him were understandable for the lead roles of Esther Roll and John Amos. Esther Roll and John Amos highly disapproved of Walker's increasingly buffoonish character and his popularity, and Jimmy Walker felt hurt by their disdain. But their disapproval was for a good cause. The show had already shifted its focus to the struggles of a black family and centered its whole being on Jimmy Walker's character. The lead actor's approach to this issue greatly troubled poor Jimmy Walker. Maybe that was why Jimmy Walker was the only Good Times star not to attend Esther Roll's funeral. However, he never showed his pain when the series was still ongoing. In his interview with the Television Academy, Jimmy Walker praised his TV parents as actors. "They are all excellent actors. I don't take anything away from their talent," he said. "Their talent is tremendous." When he was asked if he enjoyed performing with them, he replied, "I don't think enjoy is the word. I think I appreciated their talents. John is a great actor. I think it was just this show, this situation, against everything he believed in." Jimmy Walker continued, "He was tremendous in Roots, in the West Wing. We would have been in much better shape if he had had that same attitude with us." Number 13. Esther Roll got fed up with the script changes. By now, it shouldn't come as a surprise to know that Esther Roll wasn't happy with the script's changes and the evolving of JJ. The actress spoke about how she felt in a 1975 interview with Ebony magazine. "He's 18, and he doesn't work. He can't read or write. He doesn't think. The show didn't start to be that. Little by little, with the help of the artist, I suppose, because they couldn't do that to me, they have made JJ more stupid and enlarged the role. Negative images have been slipped in on us through the character of the oldest child." The talented actress was visibly tired of the whole script change, which soon affected her relationship with the cast and producers of the show. She demanded a raise along with better scripts and voiced her dismay that the writers had given Florida a new love interest, Carl Dixon, portrayed by Moses Gunn, too soon after James passed away. The producers soon became tired of her nagging and requested that the writers write scripts omitting her character. This explains why Florida married Carl and moved to Arizona, where the weather would be better for his newly diagnosed lung cancer. Willona Woods, the gossipy neighbor and family friend, was suddenly promoted to the new maternal figure for the Evans children. Number 12. Good Times was originally meant to be a family show. Good Times was initially meant to be a family show from the All in the Family series, focusing on Esther Roll and John Amos. They both looked forward to achieving the show's initial goal by dealing with severe and complex issues in Black society, comedically, while providing positive characters with whom viewers could identify. But JJ's character cut short their expectations. Good Times became the first show in television history to feature a complete family consisting purely of African Americans. This show was entirely different from the typical white family comedy shows that aired then, all thanks to Esther Rolla, who fought for the original script's character arrangement. She argued that portraying a black family with no patriarch was stereotypical and insisted on having a husband in the show. Number 11. Ralph Carter, Haywood Nelson, and Larry Fishburne were all close friends. Haywood Nelson was initially chosen to play Michael in Good Times, but he lost that role to Ralph Carter. As Nelson Lear negotiated Ralph Carter's contract with his former bosses, another child actor, Larry Fishburne, was given a shot at Michael's role during rehearsals. The interesting thing is that they were all family friends. Carter, Nelson, and Fishburne, including their families, were all close friends, each close in age, having Broadway experience, and living in the same neighborhood in Brooklyn, New York. It is still surprising how they could do that without becoming enemies. They were all shooting their shots. Number 10. John Amos's disapproval with the script changes earned him the title Disruptive Element. Like his co-star Esther Rolle, John Amos disapproved of the script's changes. Although he admired Jimmy Walker's comedic ability, he wasn't particularly thrilled about the attention that JJ's character was getting. Two other children on set, too, gave it their all equally. Michael aspired to be a Supreme Court justice and Thelma wanted to be a surgeon, but all the emphasis was on JJ and his chicken hat and him saying, "Die no might," every third page. He said in an interview with the American Archive of Television, "I felt just as much emphasis and mileage could have been gotten out of my other two children, one of whom aspired to become a Supreme Court justice played by Ralph Carter, and the other, Bernadette Stanis, who aspired to become a surgeon. But I wasn't the most diplomatic guy in those days, and the show's producers got tired of having their lives threatened over jokes. So they said, tell you what, why don't we kill him off? We can get on with our lives. That taught me a lesson I wasn't as important as I thought I was to the show or to Norman Lear's plans," he said. John Amos also revealed more about his dissatisfaction with the JJ character, stating, "The writers would prefer to put a chicken hat on JJ and have him prance around saying, 'DY no might,' and that way they could waste a few minutes and not have to write meaningful dialogue." John Amos soon became a nagging wife, complaining too much about everything. His nonstop complaints led to a call from Nelson Lear, who called him a disruptive element, and that his services were no longer required. John Amos was later fired after season 3 due to his disagreements with Nelson Lear and the writing staff, which, according to Amos, were often confrontational and heated. At first, John Amos's sudden departure was attributed to his desire to focus on a film career. Still, he later admitted in a 1976 interview that Lear called him and told him that his contract option with the show was not being renewed. John Amos stated, "That's the same thing as being fired." The show's producers covered this up by killing James's character from the show. In the season 4 premiere, The Big Move, Florida finds out that James had died in an automobile accident while in Mississippi, setting up a new business opportunity at an auto repair shop, which would have allowed the family to move from the ghetto. This latest development certainly affected the show's flow till the end. Number 9. John Amos and Esther Rolle had an interesting age gap. Should the age gaps in this series no longer be a surprise, or should they? When the show began, their lead female actress was 19 years older than the male lead. Yes, Esther Rolle was 53 while John Amos was 34. Isn't that surprising? Producers seemed satisfied with John Amos. Instead of casting an older actor, they grayed his hair to make him look older, which worked. John Amos was born on December 27, 1939 in Newark, New Jersey. He was the son of John A. Amos Sr., an auto mechanic, and Annabelle Amos. On the other hand, Esther Rolle was born on November 8, 1920 in Pompano Beach, Florida. Her character was introduced as Maud Findlay's housekeeper on Maud and was spun off in the show's second season into Good Times. In 1975, Esther Rolle was nominated for the Golden Globe Award for Best Actress, television series, musical, or comedy for her role in Good Times. John Amos was also 8 years older than his on-screen son, Jimmy Walker. The age gaps were extraordinary indeed. Number 8. 8 years old Janet Jackson really had it rough behind the scenes. Janet Jackson, the actress who starred as Penny Gordon in Season 5, wasn't particularly thrilled about the show's producers' decisions. Jackson joined the cast, playing Penny Gordon, who appeared as an abused girl, abandoned by her mother, and eventually adopted by Willona. To transform Willona from the sassy swinging single to a believable surrogate mother, the writers decided she needed her own child. They chose to skip Willona getting pregnant and chose the introduction of Penny Gordon instead. As of the time Janet Jackson was brought on board, the actress was just 11 years old. According to the Now Music star, she always stated that she was unhappy during her entire run on the show. Unexpectedly for Janet Jackson, she had already begun maturing at an early age, so the wardrobe department had to bind her chest with strips of gauze before she appeared on set. Number 7. The show was filmed in Los Angeles studios. Every movie or show had to undergo filming at different locations, or one. Good Times, unlike its on-screen location, which was Chicago, was actually filmed far away in Los Angeles. Sound stages in California provided the backdrop for most scenes rather than the Cabrini Green projects. While the region might not be directly anchored to specific landmarks or areas of interest from the show, exploring the real-life settings can still be a trip down memory lane for fans. The show's location captured the essence and spirit of the Evans family's journey through life in the Cabrini Green housing project. Number 6. The real reason Esther Rolle returned for the season's finale. After the writers changed the script, Esther Rolle voiced her disapproval about it, the killing of James's character, and the demands she had made. Esther Rolle finally decided to leave the show. In the two-part season finale, Love Has a Spot on His Lung, Florida gets engaged to Carl Dixon, a man she began dating toward the end of Season 4. The Season 5 premiere episode, The Evans Get Involved Part 1, reveals that Florida and Carl married off-screen and moved to Arizona for Carl's health. With Amos and Roll gone, Dubois took over as the lead actor, as Willona checked in on the Evans children since they were now living alone. As Esther Roll and John Amos left the show, audiences began to show less interest in the series, and its ratings began to drop. The producers immediately knew that Esther Roll's presence on the show carried a significant influence. She was the cynosure in the real sense, Jimmy Walker aside. Before its 6th season began, CBS and the show's producers came to a conclusion that would increase views, or so they thought. Steve Mills, the vice president of CBS programming, said, "We had lost the essence of the show. Without parental guidance, the show slipped. Everything told us that. Our mail, phone calls, and research. We felt we had to go back to basics. When it was too late, the producers knew that Esther Roll and John Amos were right. Losing the family element of the series did cost them some viewers. The producers then decided to summon Esther Roll, asking her to return to the show. However, the actress requested the same thing she had asked for, better pay and improved script. The producers had no choice but to agree this time. It was truly a desperate attempt to save the show. Keep watching to find out if it worked." Number 5. According to Jimmy Walker, cast members barely spoke to each other off camera. Aside from Jimmy Walker's issues with his on-screen parents off-screen, he also spoke about a shocking and sad revelation. An interview with Jimmy Walker revealed that the cast had nothing to do together. Besides recording the show, off-camera, they had nothing to do with each other. They never talked. There was no genuine relationship. Jimmy Walker didn't have Esther Roll's number or John Amos's number, nor did they. Jimmy Walker also never spoke to Janet Jackson because he didn't talk to kids, but he was misinterpreted by Jeanette Dubois, who thought he never liked her. "I will honestly say, I don't remember ever speaking a word to Esther the whole time she was there," Jimmy Walker said. "I think the same basically goes for John," Walker continued. "We talk more now, a little bit, but very, very little. We were never friends. We never talked. If you said then call Esther and ask her about, I wouldn't even have her number. I couldn't have called John. I wouldn't have had his number. We never spoke to each other, only on the set." Number 4. Jimmy Walker wasn't as bad as you thought he was. Despite Jimmy Walker's struggle with his fellow cast members, he never forgot his friends once his television career took off. In fact, he asked several of them, who were still struggling comedians, to write material for his stand-up act. 2 of his friends were Jay Leno and David Letterman. Jimmy Walker also secured a small guest spot on Good Times for Leno during Season 3. Years later, after Good Times was canceled and Letterman was the star of Late Night, Jimmy Walker could still phone Letterman anytime and get a spot on his show. Obviously, David Letterman's a major star, Jimmy Walker told the AV Club. "He's got billions of dollars. What does he need Jimmy Walker for? But David told me, 'You're my friend. I will always have you on my show, till the last breath in my body goes.'" Jimmy Walker knew within him that Good Times would have continued airing for more seasons if the cast members were on the same page. "We ran through tremendous adversity for 4.5 years, whatever it was," he said. "If we had had any kind of love whatever, I don't know how long we could have gone. I think that they killed the goose that laid the golden egg," he said. Maybe the problem wasn't Jimmy Walker. They were probably just looking for whom to blame since they couldn't get to the show's producers, so they chose him. Number 3. The weird but funny name, Buffalo Butt, made Johnny Brown frown. He hated it. In 1975, Johnny Brown joined the show in season 2. He portrayed the character Nathan Bookman, who was a construction supervisor. He had a not-so-smooth relationship with the Evans family, and their neighbor, Willona, was frequently made the subject of their jokes. Johnny Brown got a name on screen that he chose to stick with. Sadly, he wasn't quite happy with the mocking name Buffalo Butt. "Sometimes you can do too much of a thing, and it doesn't come naturally," Brown stated in a 2019 interview. "With everybody Buffalo Butt in a scene, it loses something. They even had Janet, who had just come on the show, answering like Mr. Buffalo Butt," he continued further. "And they used it in every show. They used it all through the scene when I walked into the show. They used it. I couldn't say anything because I have a wife and 2 kids to support. Now, at my age, I would have to say something." He sure wasn't happy about that name. Number 2. Good Times produced teen idols. Although Jimmy Walker became the show's star, Ralph Carter and Bernadette Stanis, who played Thelma Evans, became certified teen idols due to their appearance. These two competed steadily with the Jackson brothers and Diana Ross in the Hollywood gossip columns. In his spare time, Ralph Carter later launched a successful singing career, while Bernadette Stanis became a poster favorite and regular magazine cover girl. Number 1. The producers' efforts just weren't enough to sustain the series. After the producers agreed to Esther Roll's demands, they continued airing episodes. Unfortunately, the ratings continued dropping, and CBS had to cancel the series. In the series finale episode, The End of the Rainbow, each character finally gets a happy ending. JJJ gets his big break as a nationally syndicated artist for a comic book company with his newly created character Dino Woman, who is based on Thelma and is moving into an apartment with some lady friends. Michael attends college and moves into an on-campus dorm. Keith's bad knee heals due to his exercise and physical therapy, leading to the Chicago Bears offering him a contract to play football. Keith announces that he and Thelma are moving into a luxury apartment in the city's upscale Gold Coast district. Thelma also announces that she is pregnant with the couple's first child. Keith offers Florida the chance to move in with them so she can help Thelma with the new baby. Florida accepts the offer. Willona becomes the head buyer of the boutique. She walks in and announces that she and Penny are also moving out of the projects. Willona then reveals that her new apartment is in the same building where Keith, Thelma, and Florida are moving. She and Penny become the Evanses' downstairs neighbor. Good Times is an American television sitcom that aired for 6 seasons on CBS, from February 8, 1974 to August 1, 1979. The show was created by Eric Monti and Michael Evans and developed by executive producer Norman Lear. The show premiered in February 1974 and was the 17th highest-rated program that year. During its first full season, 25% of all American households tuned in to an episode each week. Under the name The Fosters, a British adaptation of Good Times aired on ITV from April 9, 1976 till July 9, 1977. The show was known for being the first sitcom written for and to have an all-black cast and starred a young Lenny Henry and Norman Beaton, who became famous 13 years later. It was officially announced in September 2020 that Good Times would receive an animated sitcom revival. This project initially generated curiosity and cautious excitement among fans of the original 1970s classic. At first, Carl Jones, best known for his work on The Boondocks and Black Dynamite, was attached as showrunner. At the same time, television legend Norman Lear, who co-created the original series, was slated to serve as executive producer. Lear was joined in that role by only Seth MacFarlane and NBA superstar Stephen Curry, who both lent their names and star power to the project for Netflix. This unusual mix of talent sparked intrigue, as it promised a modern and possibly edgy reimagining of the iconic sitcom. However, the project soon encountered behind-the-scenes changes. By December 2023, it was revealed that Ranada Shepard had stepped in to replace Carl Jones as showrunner. This shift in leadership raised questions about creative direction and how much of the original vision for the revival would actually make it to the screen. Despite the changes, production moved forward, and Netflix eventually released the series in April 2024 under the title Good Times, Black Again. The new animated sitcom focuses on the present-day generation of the Evans family, introducing fresh characters while occasionally referencing figures from the original series. The voice cast featured an impressive impressive lineup that included Jay Faroa, Marcy Martin, Yvette Nicole Brown, Slink Johnson, and J.B. Smoove, each bringing their style to the project. Combining a legacy property, high-profile producers, and recognizable talent is a recipe for success. Unfortunately, when Good Times Black Again finally premiered, it was met with overwhelmingly negative reviews from critics and audiences. Much of the criticism centered on its animation style, which was seen as cheap and unpolished compared to other adult animated shows. The writing was also a central sticking point, as reviewers and longtime fans condemned its crass presentation, overuse of offensive and racially insensitive humor, and general lack of heart. The original Good Times was praised for blending comedy with authentic portrayals of African American life and tackling real social issues. However, the animated reboot was faulted for doing the opposite, leaning into shock value and stereotypes rather than meaningful storytelling. Perhaps most damaging was the perceived disconnect from the original show's spirit. Aside from the occasional mention of James Evans, the series bore little resemblance to the family-centered, heartfelt dynamic that made Good Times a groundbreaking sitcom in its time. Instead of honoring Norman Lear's creation's legacy, the revival came across as a parody that alienated old fans and new viewers. Despite the big names attached and the initial buzz, Good Times Black Again quickly faded into obscurity. Another example of how difficult it can be to revive a classic series for modern audiences. What do you think about the Good Times series? Do you think the show's producers and writers were wrong in their decisions? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more interesting content. Before you go, watch the other videos on your screen.